Knife crime still at the top of the agenda. And this morning we learned that in London alone, even though knife crime is continuing to rise, arrests are falling because it would appear that police are nervous about using their stop and search powers. They're concerned that a complaint could derail their career. So even when they suspect that somebody's carrying, they won't stop and search them.
And this will often be because the person they suspect is kind of maybe part of the black community, because there's disproportionately higher knife crime related to that community, and it goes back to this same problem about racial sensitivities, and the mayor of London, who is the Police and Crime Commissioner, Sadiq Khan, very anxious about the use of stop and search because he says it discriminates against the black community.
But it's the most effective way of intervening before knife crime's committed.
One, it depends where you are. Two, there are parts of Britain with a higher knife crime rate than London, which are predominantly white. And thirdly, the black community, young people are stopped more often, which then creates, if you haven't got a knife and you're repeatedly stopped, that creates terrible resentment and doesn't help policing. If they have a genuine, founded reason to stop someone, they can. And if they're not doing it, but if they've got genuine and founded reasons to stop someone and they're not, then they should. But you should not just go around stopping young black people, which seemed to be the case too often because there were so many more times likely to be stopped. And look, as a parent, I remember my kids would be stopped now and again. Once one of them had his school bag searched. Some copper used what was said to be some anti-terrorism legislation. And as a parent, I felt furious. Right? And I thought this was totally wrong. And so black parents will feel the same. That's why you've got to be careful. If you have a founded reason, do it.
Well, we're going to have to do something about this. I mean, Commander Hayley Stewart, who leads on tackling knife crime in the Met, does say it remains a top priority, but very frank about the problem here. Says, I'm quoting, Hayley Stewart says, falls in the number of arrests for knife crimes are linked to fewer officers feeling confident about using stop and search tactics as they fear complaints. And yet we know that stop and search can prevent crimes from happening. We recognise we have more to do to empower officers to use this tactic boldly and effectively. So what are we going to do about this?
Well, I think you've just got to... they've got... Stop and search can be intelligence-led. If they've got intelligence that there could be a knife in that community, in that group, they've just got to use it.
They've got to use common...
And risk a potential backlash.
They've got to use common sense and intelligence. And if you get a better ratio of stops to discovering knives, then that would be a good thing. But where lots of kids or young people are getting stopped and they're found to have nothing, then I'm sorry, it's wrong. Wrong. Any person, any group... would rail against that.
No, but isn't it better to stop someone and they might get it wrong?
Well, you've got to accept, surely, that occasionally you are going to stop somebody who isn't carrying. You've got a reasonable suspicion.
But you too, you're white like me, so you're less likely to be stopped. But I bet you, if you got stopped a couple of times in quick succession,
I'm sure, and
you were innocent, you would kick off.
Sure, I hear that. But what about then when the innocent boy or girl is stabbed to death?
Of course.
Because a copper was too reluctant to intervene,
can you show correlation that somehow having fewer searches, actually?
Yes, knife crime is going up and the numbers of stops and searches going down.
But that might be a casual relationship rather than what's called a causal relationship.
Meanwhile, the Home Office is introducing stricter rules on knife sales. People buying knives online will have to submit photographic ID at the point of sale and, again, photographic ID at the point of delivery. And this is part of stricter age verification checks to be introduced by the government, of course, in the wake of the Southport murders.
If they're buying a knife online and it's quite easy to fiddle the ID, it's quite easy. And are we convinced the people delivering the knife to the home is going to go to great lengths to check that it's the person who says they are?
If they introduce new rules, then again, as we discussed last week, just introducing more obstacles to people being able to get hold of these weapons is going to be a good thing. What seems remarkable is this morning, the material viewed, some of it, viewed by the Southport killer, is still online. This is violent material. And of course, everybody's saying, why is an Al-Qaeda training manual and video of a stabbing of a bishop still available for other people to view. Now, Elon Musk went into battle with regulators in Australia about the video of the stabbing last year and won, which is why it is still there online. But right now, what kind of power do you think? I mean, we've just seen President Trump have a really good conversation with our Prime Minister. President Trump is a deregulator. He does not like rules interfering with business, and he's also really good friends with Elon Musk, who's part of his cabinet. What hope have we got of influencing Elon Musk when it comes to regulating, increased regulation of what Elon Musk would say is free speech and what many here would say is material that's incitement to violence?
To get him to agree and say it's a good idea, I would have thought zero. And you've got a president who is against gun controls in the US, despite the fact he was almost killed by an assassin's bullet. So they have a very, very different approach. And I think it's an approach we have to combat. And we get really to one of the roots of why Elon Musk has been so unhinged on his attacks on British politicians. It's because he feels Twitter is under threat because one hates speech off, and he thinks it's okay for people to go on Twitter and say kill somebody and burn them out. He thinks that's all right.
Free speech.
It's hate speech.
Nigel Farage has taken him on, actually, over the weekend. Yes, Nigel Farage has addressed him directly, Elon Musk directly, and said, you've got to take this stuff down.
Of course.
So that will widen the gulf between the two of them.
Of course. Taken down. There's no justification for it to be there. On knives, I agree, always put more barriers in the way of buying knives. But the Southport killer, at one point, just took a kitchen knife to school. So knives are in everybody's homes for
the sense
for
of
good
powerless
reason.
this must make people watching this programme feel. Got all these politicians and MPs raging about how terrible it is. And yet it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there, and anyone can presumably, with a bit of wit, can find it and glorify it. And there'll be other similar videos too. It's disgusting. They must find a way of having a filter. It's switched on.
Oh, it's easy to do it. Look,
of course it is.
They can take down Premier League goals if they're breaching a licence because they're going to be in trouble on a commercial.
It's not rocket science.
You can take this down, and if you've missed it, and then somebody points it out, the Southport MP or anybody else, then you say, "Well, we're very sorry you missed that. We'll have it down almost immediately." And you can have a process of people you
governments
contact.
have been scared of these people. They're scared of these masters of the universe. Cameron had a big session with Google back in 2014, at number 10. What's happened? Nothing.
What do you
porn.
think is at the root of that fear? What are they frightened of?
Well, they're powerful. They can attack politicians. They know that young people use them all the time. I just think they've got an unnatural fear of them, and I don't understand.
They are incredibly profitable. Although probably X not now, but certainly Facebook is, and the others. They're incredibly profitable US corporations. And so, therefore, the US government is standing up for its own financial interests. And it's not just free speech, they are businesses. When we talk about trade deals, the US government will threaten sanctions if we begin to try and make the Apples and the Amazons of this world pay their tax. And companies like Facebook to behave in a civilised way.
Well, staying with the US, we still don't know how Donald Trump is going to deal with Sir Keir Starmer in person, face-to-face. They've only had one chicken dinner, haven't they, so far? But the pair did discuss the importance of close and warm ties in their first phone call, which took place last night. And just a few hours before, as you may have seen if you were watching the news channels yesterday, the US president made some very positive comments, surprisingly positive, actually, given their history, about our Prime Minister while talking to reporters aboard Air Force One. Seems to be reaching out a bit, doesn't he?
I think flattery's getting Starmer everywhere, although I always think, never smile at a crocodile. A dangerous beast might be nice to you at the moment, but it can turn on you very, very quickly. But he's basically just said, can I have an invitation to Buckingham Palace?
He wants to see the King. He wants to see the King. He wants to see the King and the Prince and Princess of Wales. And that's soft power at our best, and if that helps, we should.
Yeah, but it's as long as you can keep them on side for a bit. You might have to demean yourself.
Well, it seems to show,
nevertheless,
it seems to show, doesn't it, that Trump is willing to overlook all of the negative comments that have been made about him and about Musk.
Yeah, and I think there's...
From the front.
I mean, we often
bench
talk about the special issue. It will be more special with Trump. Trump has this affinity with the UK, not least because of Scotland and his own family connections with Scotland. He's got businesses in Scotland. He's got his golf course and bar.
Maybe he hopes they're going to buy Greenland for him, because under a 1917 agreement, we get first dibs on Greenland.
Yeah.
Maybe Keir Starmer's going to buy it and give it as a gift.
The president said
Trump.
the UK is being considered as the destination for his first international trip of his second term, telling the BBC it could be Saudi Arabia, it could be the UK. Traditionally, he said, it could be the UK. Yeah, well, there's a contrast.
I know, it's because last time, 8 years ago, when it was Saudi Arabia, it's because they signed a big deal, a trade deal to buy a whole load of American goods. So, maybe if we just promise to buy a load of
we've been trying to get a decent trade deal with the US ever since Brexit.
The country we trade singularly with the most, the European Union's the biggest bloc, they're the single country. So there's lots of trade without another trade deal. But the problem with a trade deal is, do we want to eat chlorinated chicken, and do we want to let them into the NHS?
Starmer has set up committees in Downing Street to deal specifically with this. Jonathan Powell, who's the National Security Advisor, who's come up with this bonkers idea of giving away Chagos.
Very clever idea.
He's in the thick of it.